Since joining the SBTV team, Aaron has excelled himself as a presenter, having interviewed some of the biggest names in the entertainment industry, such as will.i.am, Alicia Keys, Nicki Minaj, Kevin Hart, just to name a few.
And right now, as a presenter, I think I have got to that stage where, not bored, but I think it's time for something more or something else. And that's something else that I want to do, is kind of get more into mainstream presenting. As
an artist, speaker or writer, almost everyone that has met him will agree that Suli Breaks is an all-round inspiration. He has been hailed by many high-profile people, in particular the co-founder of the popular American Deaf Poetry Jam show, Bruce George, to be a poetry pioneer of the new school, as well as constantly being considered to be in the upper echelon of the current generation of inspirational people taking the world by storm.
If you don't doubt yourself at some point, it means what you're aiming for is not great enough, you know what I mean? You want to aim for something that you have to think, wow, can I really do this? You want to look up at the mountain and be like, yo, can I climb this? And that doubt is what's going to spur you on, and it's going to give you the fuel to go further.
Quason Matthews is a young director and entrepreneur known for creating That's a Rap Show, a magazine show dedicated to exploring the wonders of the urban scene while exposing fresh new talent.
You know, for me to even have the opportunity to work on something means that I must be able to do it in the first place.
There is a lot that has been written about how to motivate yourself when your motivation is weak. Many of those motivation techniques are great, but in order to make them even more effective, let's take a look at 10 things that kill motivation in order to figure out what causes our motivation to die in the first place. Number 1. No goals. Without goals, you really don't need motivation. I mean, what in the world would you do with it? Run around in circles? Many people complain about not being motivated to do anything. The majority of the time, it's because they don't have any goals that excite them enough to do anything.
I think having a goal in life is paramount to any kind of success, because ultimately it's like you need to have a destination which you need to aim for.
And having a goal, it lets you, it's the thing that keeps you going realistically, and it's a measure.
If you don't have foresight to see kind of where you want to get to, you can't keep the motivation to be able to actually stay on the track to actually get there.
Whenever you feel like you've achieved something, if it's not the ultimate goal that you have, it kind of makes it irrelevant. So you may enjoy that moment of success or whatever, but if you still haven't hit the goal that you plan to hit, it kind of makes it irrelevant. So it keeps you going and not settle for just any little bit of progress that you make. So having a goal is vital.
And when you do get distracted and things do come, external factors which distract you from what you want, that goal is always going to be like an anchor which keeps you stapled towards where you're going, because that ultimately you need a focus, and life throws so many things at you, and if there's not that pivot point for you to keep on referring back to, I feel like ultimately you get distracted and you get blown away by the tide.
2. Failure. This is a big one. When we set out to achieve something and things don't go as planned, we feel this thing called failure. It could specifically be feelings like disappointment, embarrassment, or overwhelm. Knowing what to do when this happens to get your motivation back is critical.
I used to detest failure. I used to hate failure. But then as I've grown and I've developed, I realized that failure is actually an attribute of success, because success is a series of multiple failures which have accumulated, because the only way you can learn something is by failing. If you take it back to when we're kids, when you learn to walk, you have to fall over numerous times before you get to walk, you know what I mean? The same way when you learn to ride a bike, there's nobody who learns to ride a bike without falling over.
To be quite honest, I'm not gonna lie, I deal badly with failure. Like, I hate it. I aim to try and succeed in most things that I do, but failure is inevitable. On the path to anything in life, especially when you're setting yourself high goals, failure is inevitable.
I wouldn't call it failure, because at the same time I think everything happens for a reason. So when I had a goal and didn't achieve it, I may have learned something from the mistake or the alternative thing that happened. And sometimes it turns out better than what you planned. So I wouldn't call it failure.
I think as we get older, we look for more security, and we lose this innate ability to fail, which ultimately leads to success. And there's always a quote by Thomas Edison, which really resonates with me, in the respect that they said to him after about 99 attempts to create the light bulb, he did it on the 99th, and they said, how does that feel? And he said, well, now I know 98 ways not to make a light bulb. You know what I mean? So there's always something to be learned, and I believe failure is essential.
Even in terms of journalism, like people might not know, but I did work experience and worked with some of the biggest like newspapers and establishments in this country. Do you know what I mean? I worked with the Times newspaper, and I contributed to like one of the most groundbreaking articles that they had that year. Like, it was about the earthquakes, and I did some research and I managed to get in contact with some people. I went on another investigative report with a Times newspaper journalist about some missing businessmen who'd done some mad kind of like shifty kind of plan where they basically robbed loads of people and staged their own death. And I was working on these kind of things in the time that I spent with the Times. So after that, I thought, yeah, I did some good work with the Times. Let me try and apply for the internship. Nothing happened for me. I didn't get nowhere.
But whenever I don't hit a target, I would see what I learned from, you know, that thing, or how to maybe improve, etc. So a lot of the things that I do, I like to just, I would say learning from my mistakes has been the most important part of everything I do.
Failure, how you look at it, is very important as well. If you look at the failure and analyse it and what led to that failure and the attributes of that failure, you can build on it to make a greater success. But if you just look at it and you let it get you down, it's not really a building block, but it's a great building block for anybody successful. And I'm sure anybody who's successful would agree with that factor, that failure is a component of success.
3. Negative people. One comment of discouragement is often enough to kill any motivation some people may have. People who constantly make negative comments directed towards you should be avoided if you want to maintain your motivation.
I mean, I grew up in an environment, not even an environment, in a household full of negative people. When you grow up in an African household, it's like everything you're doing that's not to do with maths or English or science is wrong, you know what I mean? So I grew up in an environment comprised of negative people, and you kind of learn to channel the negativity as a fuel, but also as well, it's also, I'm a person that likes to study life, and I study where people's negativity come from, and I try to see what it stems from, and then I try to see if I can take that and use it in something positive in my life. You know, I don't want to end up having a series of failures and becoming negative like them. So I always analyze why people are negative.
YouTube commenters or commentators, or whatever you want to call them, innit? Those people on YouTube that sit behind their computers and behave like internet gangsters or keyboard warriors. And like, it's funny because sometimes people comment some things about you like they really know you, do you know what I mean? And it's like, I think to myself, but you don't know me. Some people have said stuff like, oh, why does he try to use words that he doesn't understand? Oh, he gets on my nerves. And someone said something about the way that I said a certain word, or I said something, but what I said was actually correct. And it's like, I think, what are they talking about? And then sometimes what we get is these people that argue. So there's for and against. All these people you don't know. Some people are fighting your corner, some people are going against you, and they're arguing on the timeline about you, and I've got nothing to do with this conversation. You get me? But how I see it now is, I say thank you.
But like, you know what I mean, like Aaron was saying, YouTube, that's the height of negativity, you know what I mean? There's people who have nothing better to do than come and write something negative. But I mean, negativity is always, it always comes if you're doing something, no matter whether you're doing it good or whether you're doing it bad. And most of the time, people are just doing it because they're envious. It's a good sign because it means you're doing something right.
Do you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, for a person to have to make a comment or to even say something hateful or negative, like you say, they've had to watch me in the first place. You've added a view to what we're doing at whatever station or whatever company that I'm working for. So thank you. Thank you for hating, because at the end of the day, your hate is, I call hate rate in a jealousy jacket. You get me? You're basically rating me, but sometimes the jealousy is what kind of gets you in a situation or a kind of like in a kind of way that you can't kind of like give the ratings to the person. You'd rather just say, ah, fuck them man, yeah. Excuse my language, fuck them man, their man is this, that and the other, you know what I mean?
If nobody feels the need to go out of their way to direct hatred towards you, it means like you're not doing something that's caught their attention. So if you're in someone's attention, negativity is going to come. Like the same way failure is part of success, negativity with juxtaposition, like if you're doing anything positive, you know what I mean? There's lots of components of success that people don't want to look at because it's like the ugly side of success, and negativity is one of them. Negativity, haters, failure, but these are all essential to breed a successful kind of existence or be a successful person.
5. Low energy. Being fit plays a big role in your motivation. When you barely have enough energy to move around and do stuff, your motivation will suffer greatly. A good diet and exercise regime will help with that.
I definitely agree that exercise is very, look, listen, like, I'm not in the best shape of my life right now, but I'm working on it, you know what I'm saying? Man's got the PT, I'm hitting a couple reps in the gym. Because I think, all jokes aside, I mean, they said there's 3 things that can that help you develop your mind. One of them is playing games, one is meditation, and another one is exercise, you know what I mean? So definitely that physical ability, and it's good to push your body to the limits in all areas, and just to be healthy in general. I definitely think people overlook the health aspects and how it contributes to having a healthy mind state. So yeah, I think exercise is a good way to get motivated and keep up, you know, I'm trying myself. Someone who shits in the shower, like someone shit in the shower of the gym, you know what I mean, like full shit, and I had to pick that up. When you're doing that, you're thinking to yourself, like, what am I worth?